Morning, morning. Crazy news out of New Zealand today with the firing of Scott Robertson, the All Black coach. Oh, I mean, a lot of people saying they didn't see it coming. I mean, I probably didn't see it coming a few weeks ago, but the rhetoric over the last couple of days, all this talk about players unhappy, bit of a toxic culture. I think his position was untenable, to be honest. I don't think the so-called culture coach, could preside over a culture, a toxic culture, sorry, and keep his job. So yeah, brutal for Razor, but I think uh, I think the right decision was made, and I don't know about anyone else, but I'm super excited. I'm super excited for the next few weeks. I'm super excited for Super Rugby. God, I'm going to be honest. I'm more excited than I have been for like Super Rugby and All Black Rugby since before 2019. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I was never a big fan of the Fozzie appointment, and even with Razor, like I don't want to come in here after he's been sacked and start saying, yeah, I never thought he'd be a good coach. I always thought I always liked him and I wanted him to do well and I thought he was a good coach, but I just something just didn't feel right. I guess it was the way that everyone looked towards him as the savior, the All Black savior, the second coming of Christ. Um, it almost felt like he was never going to live up to expectations, and it was, yeah, just the expectations for him were just set so high that I don't think he was ever going to reach them. So, yeah, just and it actually kind of reminds me of the Richie Mo'unga situation at the moment as well. Everyone looking towards him as the saviour of Robertson's campaign, really, wasn't it? I think he was too, looking towards just wait till we get Richie Mo'unga back and we've got a 10 finally, and but the New Zealand Rugby Union couldn't wait that long. They couldn't afford to. I think every year the All Blacks over the last 4 or 5 years, that every year that's gone by, the All Blacks have taken a bigger hit to their brand, and I don't know how many more hits they could take. Um, like they needed to do something, um, and who knows if this is going to work out. But I don't know. I kind of look at it. A little bit like I think Razor obviously and the way his vision, he came in, he completely changed the structure of New Zealand rugby, right? In terms of like he got rid of all the old management, all the old coaches, everyone was gone. The only person who kept his job from the Foster period and that sort of link to the past coaches as well was Jason Ryan, who also was one of Scott Robertson's boys. So you've gotten rid of all the structures that were put in place then, all the sort of ins and outs of the team, the game weeks, the routines and all that type of thing. You've gotten rid of it. You're starting again. You've got different guys. And so yeah, maybe you have a different way of doing things. And I think the players obviously had some issues around it. They maybe didn't feel like they could leave the jersey in a better place than they received it with this current setup, and that's valid. But I do feel like maybe if Razor was given more time, maybe we would have finally seen like we would have reaped the rewards of what he was trying to do. Um, but as I said, I don't think New Zealand rugby could wait that long because I do feel like his vision and the way he saw the All Blacks going, I don't think he could implemented it within 4 years. I don't think we would have seen the benefits of it within 4 years. And ultimately, yeah, he fell on his sword. Um, yeah, so just a lot of news, a lot of stuff to soak in, really. David Kirk gave his press conference today, spoke about obviously he didn't talk about the culture as such. It was more performance, but I do think the culture was the probably the overriding factor. He pointed out that the trajectory of the All Blacks they just didn't see an upward trajectory, and that was the reason for removing him. Which I think is just a nice way around saying that they didn't like the way things were going. Results aside, the culture seemed bad, and it was time to move on. So yeah. All right. So look, I'm a serial YouTube watcher, podcast listener, and I am always going through my collection of podcasts and YouTube channels, listening to the latest takes, seeing whether I agree with, commenting, having opinions, and I did the same today, and I found a few different takes. I've got one right here, and it's a take, that's for sure. It's a hot take, and it is from the DSPN, Mark Devlin's Sport Podcast Network, and it's Mark Watson, who is a very he was very vocal in wanting Razor out. And I think a lot of people shared his views, including myself. But this one takes the cake. So yeah, just play a little excerpt from this and see what everyone thinks.
Getting back to player power, look, I'm, so let's say the All Black performances, and they've decided that 70 or 80% of the failings go down to the coaching, goes down to Scott Robertson and his other coaches. Well, some of it also needs to fall on the players.
Yep.
Now, do a review, ask the hard questions. In that review, as a player, you answer those questions and you're honest. And if you want to be honestly brutal, be brutal. But do not have a caveat on the end of it where you then go, oh, by the way, if you don't get rid of him, I'm gone and I'm going to stay overseas. Now, that's sort of what has been reported, and that's what I've sort of heard pretty much how it sort of played out with some of the senior players, or one particular senior player, Ardie Savea. And that's actually been sort of reported and documented that he wasn't prepared to play under this coaching group going forward. I don't like that. And for those reasons, I would also sack Ardie Savea. I'd actually say to Ardie Savea,
Whoa.
No, I would, because I think you make a statement to the players. Hang on a minute. Feel free to give us all the feedback in the world, but then do not go and blackmail us, which is technically what I'm saying. It's him or me.
Sure, but you can say that. You can warn him that without sacking the guy. I think we could do that without actually turning around and axing his contract.
No player is bigger than this All Black
Absolutely,
team.
I understand that. But hey, let's not throw everything out here. You're still talking about one of the best players in the world. And not only that, he's enormously popular, mate. I mean, you imagine what the public reaction would be if that was the case. Come on.
Yeah, but you've got to make a statement on around this player power. Last year we had TJ Perenara hijacking the damn haka to put forward his political.
Yeah, so there you go. That is the hot takes of hot takes. Geez, I don't know. I agree in part. I hate the fact that player power can hold a team to ransom like that. And if that was the case, and that was the reason that Razor got sacked, was basically because of Ardie said it's him on me, which I don't necessarily agree with. I don't think that was the sole reason, but I don't like the idea of a new coach coming in and then Ardie taking the captaincy, and then I don't know. It just maybe I do like it. I don't know. I don't know what my views are on this. What does everyone think? Because I see where he's coming from. Like, you shouldn't be allowed to do something like that and then not face any repercussions. But then you can't let a guy like Ardie Savea just walk out the door. He's such a important member of the All Blacks brand, and I hate using the All Blacks brand as a reason for things, because they're a rugby team, But he really is important. He's not only one of the best players in the world, but he's So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I sit on this. I don't know what everyone thinks about this. Mark Watson, though, he's never far from the controversial takes, is he? So I think there's going to be a few issues moving forward, right? Um, so, well, a couple of issues that I see popping up. Are all the players aligned with this? Because obviously you have a fair few Crusaders in that current All Black team who have played for Robertson when he was the coach of Crusaders. So there's guys in that All Blacks squad that know the ins and outs of a Robertson setup, the way he coaches. Same with Scott Hansen as well, right? So they all know. So it can't have been a shock to them how this tenure was going to play out and how these guys were going to go about their business. So you'd have to, I mean, you'd think that it was players that were not a part of the Crusaders that had an issue with, or at least were a little bit more critical of Scott Robertson and Scott Hansen. Obviously, Artie has been pointed out as one of them, which is, I imagine there was a group around him. It does make you wonder who else. Beauden Barrett, I mean, you look at his performances towards the end of the year were very, very underwhelming. Was he not happy? I can't imagine some of the younger guys who didn't really get a chance. Maybe Ruben Love probably would have. Was he feeling like, you do read stuff about Hansen Hansen being the reason that he didn't get picked. So were there guys in the squad who just were not looked at in a very positive light by Hansen or Robertson or whatever? So yeah, is there going to be a divide in the future? I don't know. I hope not, but I guess we'll find out. I can't imagine Scott Barrett will be the captain going forward. This is another issue. I think there was only one person in New Zealand that would pick Scott Barrett as the captain of the All Blacks, and that person was Scott Robertson. And the obvious option is Ardie Savea, but do they go to Ardie Savea after he the so-called him or me argument? I don't know. I don't know. Um, and then obviously who the new coach is going to be, and the assistants, and the best mix, and the best mix that's going to get the best out of these players. So there's lots of issues, and that's where we're going to go into next and have a look at potentially some rumours around potential coaches. Yeah. Alrighty, so I guess now we start looking forward to the possibilities of who's going to take over as coach of the All Blacks. And the one that everyone's talking about is Jamie Joseph, who was, I think he interviewed before Razor got the job, or maybe back when it was Fozzie, when Fozzie got appointed. But yeah, he seems to be who everyone's talking about. And then the question mark over, does Tony Brown come back from South Africa? Personally, I don't know. I think Jamie Joseph is probably the best man for the job, and I imagine at some point that would mean that Tony Brown would also join the coaching team, whether that's now or in the future, next year, in 6 months, in 2 years after the World Cup. I don't know. Um, I also I would find it surprising if Wayne Smith isn't involved at some point. In fact, in my head, I see this kind of Jamie Joseph being the new coach, Tony Brown not coming straight away because he's tied up with South Africa. He wants to see that through, fair play. But then Wayne Smith being that that interim guy. You know, we know how good he is, how good a coach he is. You know, like we don't need to speak about all the things he's achieved, but he's good as he's great as an attacking coach as well. He's proven record with high ball expertise. Attack and backs coach, perfect interim coach until Tony Brown comes back. And then throwing in a guy like maybe Dave Rennie, if he's happy to work with Jamie Joseph, or maybe Vern Cotter. I don't see Vern Cotter as a head coach material of the All Blacks, because I just purely don't want to watch the All Blacks play his style. But I think a guy like him would make the All Blacks really tough to beat. And then if you do need like a director of high performance, someone like Joe Schmidt or even Pat Lam. I was listening to an interview with Pat Lam on a DSPN, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, and he just had a really, really good. He just said all the right things, all the things that everyone outside of New Zealand Rugby Union Board have been talking about, all the things that we think they can't see. There's definitely there's definitely a lot of traction with the Jamie Joseph stuff. David Kirk has said that they have no one in mind. I don't believe that. I don't think you would make a decision to sack an All Black coach halfway through his tenure without having anyone in mind, or you haven't even, talked to someone, and there's a couple of rumors floating around. So I wanted to show one clip from the breakdown where they speak roughly around Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown, and then a little spicy little excerpt from another DSPN episode which aired, I think, yesterday before the news broke about Razor, but it was to do with set up around the Highlanders and Jamie Joseph, and some insights from Jamie Wall. But yeah, we'll just jump over to the breakdown clip. And they speak, their tone and the way they're talking on the breakdown, it sounds like it's all Jamie Joseph. So maybe they do know stuff that we don't. I don't know. Anyway, here it is.
Suitors, Mills, because New Zealand Rugby and the All Blacks have to move forward quite quickly. Don't forget that France and Ireland are coming here in July. We have a massive tour of South Africa for the first time in 30 years, all live and exclusive on Sky Sport, don't forget. But there's one name being mentioned to take over as head coach, right? And that is Jamie Joseph, who's currently head coach of the Highlanders. He came back from Japan. He always knew he wanted this role. He's applied for it a couple of times, Jeff. So it's his role, isn't it?
They're going to talk about process. They're going to go through and talk about the fact they want to do things the right way, but it would be hard to believe, and I'm interested if anyone's got any other views, that he's not the guy that they've targeted to take over. And they'll be hoping that they can lure Tony Brown back from the Springboks.
What's the possibility of that, Jeff?
Look, I would be surprised. Look, I don't know this for a fact, but I would be surprised if Tony hasn't left a door open, because I know actually.
What was Marshall saying there? Was he saying no chance? I thought he was saying don't ask or don't answer, but it looks like he's saying no chance. And he's just been over there, so maybe he does know. Maybe Tony's not coming.
He was offering to help with the Highlanders early part of this season, and South African Rugby were happy for him to do that. It didn't quite work out for other reasons, but I think in the back of his mind that he's looked at this and gone, at some point he'd love to coach the All Blacks with Jamie Joseph. Now this may have come a couple of years sooner than he thought. He may have been thinking post Rugby World Cup the opportunity might come, whereas come now. So I'd be surprised if he hasn't got an out. I don't know that. I don't know, but I'd be surprised if he hasn't got an out. And then, to me, mind you, does he take that? Does he look at it? But this is a team. I know he loves coaching. I think he'd love to coach the All Blacks. But I think with other guys, What's that?
I agree with Jeff. He that would be probably his ultimate ambition and goal would be to coach the All Blacks. But I would imagine that they've got him in concrete over there with the All Blacks coming, particularly this year. They would have locked him in. From all accounts, and having spoken to him, he's in a great environment and he loves what he's doing. It would take something really significant to move him on, and the All Blacks are significant. So there could be a possibility, Jeff, and possibly there is a door to be opened. I agree with you on the fact that, like off the back of what you said, Kirsty, that Jamie's the most likely candidate, having gone away with that All Blacks 15 in November. So it's kind of a stepping stone there. And by all accounts, that was a really harmonious trip. Really enjoyed.
To be fair, though, those candidates down the bottom, I'm just going to move my thing. Those candidates down the bottom, I'd be happy with any of them. With Jamie Joseph. For me, the standout's Jamie Joseph, but Joe Schmidt, Dave Rennie, Clay McMillan, he's with Munster, so I don't think he's going to come back that early, but you never know. And Vern Cotter. I think that's a great mix. Obviously, you're not going to have a coaching lineup with all those guys on it, but even two of them, you've got Jamie Joseph, as I've said, Dave Rennie, Tony Brown, or Wayne Smith. I think that's great. I don't think you can do better than that, to be honest. Anyway.
By the players, very successful, obviously, on and off the field. So that's obviously been a massive positive for him, stepping into that role and fulfilling it with a really good results and a really good tour. So, that kind of seems to be the stepping stone. And then obviously the other coaches that come into the mix-up are coaches that we have outside of New Zealand. Clayton McMillan is one, Dave Rennie's another that's coached Australia before. That's having to bring people back into this environment and reset them. So I just think solidity.
It sounds like Justin Marshall. He knows. He's spoken to. I'm sure he's close with Tony Brown. And yeah, I would imagine he's already been on the blower to him, and Brown's just said no, not happening, not this year. But who knows? Who knows what happens? By the sounds of it, David Kirk was asked, "Do you have to pay Razor out?" And he said no. So maybe there'll be a bit of extra cash to get Tony Brown released out of his contract. Who knows? All right, so the last video I wanted to show you was, as I said earlier, it was another one from the DSPN. This is with Jamie Wool, and he is speaking before the news broke that Robertson had been sacked, and it's just going over potential coaches and a little interesting note about the Highlanders and Jamie Joseph. So let's give that a listen.
Just the way things are going, I go back to the last time we discussed this. I think that because there is no clear contingency, why there hasn't been a clear contingency plan evident to everyone out there other than Jamie Joseph, that's why I don't think they're going to be pulling any triggers anytime soon. However, that could have changed. There might have been a case made over Christmas, over New Year's, and something might have happened. We've heard...
This was literally 2 days ago, or yesterday. And Jamie was saying, I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on removing Razor. Fuck it hell.
Tony Brown might be back into the mix. Mm-hmm. That would significantly change the narrative around a contingency plan, because Jamie Joseph and Tony Brown together, Tony Brown having great success with the Springboks of late, being an integral part of that. It's a massive story if Tony Brown comes back. And
he is in the country at the moment right now, Tony. We know that.
And what he could potentially bring with him, given where he's just been. So, yeah, it's all up in the air.
Jamie Joseph was at Highlanders training yesterday.
Well, you'd hope so, because it is his job.
It is his job.
I don't think.
But we also hear that the Highlanders are looking for a new coach. So this is here's a big rumour bucket, okay?
Yeah.
And what we're doing is picking these things out at the moment, all right?
I love that rumour bucket. I wonder how long they've been looking for a new coach, though. Because I cut it off, but as Jamie Wall goes on to say that the Highlanders are not, they do this quite often where coaches move on fairly quickly and they change direction. Tony Brown came back last year, coached and then moved on after 6 months, stuff like this. But the Jamie Joseph one, this does seem weird because he came back last season and you can see him building something, right? They had a tough season last year, Highlanders, and you would not expect them to just remove Jamie Joseph when he's clearly building something. He recruited well. By all accounts, the Highlanders are tipped to do pretty well this season. And all of a sudden they're looking for a new coach. So that, I mean, it's hard not to read into that one, I'll be honest. The Tony Brown stuff, who knows? Who knows? Oh, we couldn't get him, could we? I would be over the moon if Tony Brown came back. It would be it would hurt South Africa, I think, because you're bringing back internal workings of that team right now. You're bringing back the whole attacking sort of structure like that they're working with, and all the things that just like literally tore the All Blacks apart in Wellington, which he masterminded, would be in the All Blacks team. One can dream. One can dream. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like as I said to start with, I'm super excited to see where this goes. What's going to happen this year in Super Rugby. Like I just feel like there's just new chances for these young guys to make this team now. Like the whole conservative nature of Razor's tenure and his team. You just knew every week it was going to be the same team or a pretty close version of it. And now we have I don't know, it's just refreshing that maybe we're going to get a guy like Jamie Joseph in there with, him and Tony Brown who love working together and who have new ideas and who will bring back the culture, who will bring back this, I don't know, it's just, yeah, I'm excited, and I'm super keen to see who else is going to be in that in his staff. But that leads me on to the next thing. Like I want to. This is my a new channel, and I'm going to do. I won't really do a Super Rugby preview, but I think there are some really cool storylines around Super Rugby this year. So I'm going to put out some videos in the future around some of the storylines, like the search for the All Black number 10, the battle between the nines, because there are so many, I believe there's 3 or 4 positions that there's just going to be like a really good battle. Obviously the nines, you've got Roygaard, but the players behind him, is Ratama going to be there? I don't think so. Is it Hotham? He's going to step up. Pledger has injured for the season, so we won't get to see him. The 10s, does Ruben Love play 10 for the Hurricanes? How does Perifetta do now that he's come back? There's a lot going on, and super excited to look into that a bit further. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If love to hear what everyone thinks. Not about this my channel or anything, but just about the goings on with the All Blacks. Was it the right call? Who should be the coach? And see you in the next one, guys.